All right, let's talk about something huge, securing your applications in the Azure cloud. If you've ever felt kind of lost in that maze of security options, you are definitely in the right place. We're going to break it all down. So, we're really going to focus on one big question today. How do you build a secure digital fortress for your application in the cloud? Yeah, we're going to use this fortress analogy the whole way through because it's the perfect way to make sense of all the different pieces and see how they fit together to build a really powerful defense. Every great fortress, it's got to start with a solid foundation. And in the cloud, what that really means is carving out your own private, secure space, away from everybody else. So how on earth do we do that? Well, it all begins with something called the virtual network, or VNet for short. This is the absolute fundamental building block. I want you to think of the entire Azure cloud as this vast, sprawling continent. A VNet, that's your own private plot of land. You get to control it completely, it's totally isolated, and it's all yours. And getting started is actually pretty simple. First, you define your VNet. That's kind of like drawing the property lines for your fortress. Then you create subnets. And this is where you divide your land into specific zones, right? You've got your courtyard, your barracks, maybe the treasury. Each one of these zones can have its very own set of security rules. Okay, so we've got our land, we've got our zones, now we need to post some guards. And this brings us to two absolutely critical layers of defense, your local guards and the big central checkpoint at the main gate. And this is where things get really interesting, because you have two key tools here. On one side, you've got your network security groups. We call them NSGs. Think of these as your local guards, or maybe even bouncers, stationed at the door of every single subnet, controlling who gets in and out of that one specific zone. But on the other side, you have the Azure firewall. Now, this is your central command post at the main gate of the entire fortress. It's a powerful, super intelligent service that inspects every single bit of traffic trying to get in or out of your property. And this quote really just nails the key difference, right? NSGs are for internal security, moving from room to room inside the walls. The firewall, that's for handling external threats right at the perimeter. And let me be clear, you absolutely need both to be truly secure. Okay, theories down. We've got our land, we've got our zones, and we have our layers of security. So now let's put this into practice with a classic real-world example, a standard 3-tier web application. Most web apps are built this way for a really important security reason. You have a web tier that faces the public, an application tier that does all the thinking, and a database tier that holds the data. By separating them like this, it means if one tier gets compromised, the others are still protected behind their own walls. It's a core idea called defense in depth. So our first subnet is for that web tier. Think of it as the public lobby of our fortress. Its NSG rules will allow visitors from the internet, but only on standard web ports. And, this part is crucial, another rule makes sure this lobby can only talk to the app tier and absolutely nowhere else. Next up, the app subnet. This is our secure engine room. The NSG rules here, even tighter. It will only allow inbound traffic from our web tier. That's it, not the internet, not anywhere else. And it's only allowed to send traffic out to one place, the database tier. And finally, we have the database subnet. This is the vault. This is where the crown jewels are kept. The NSG rules here are the most restrictive of all. It only allows traffic in from the app tier, and, now this is the most crucial point, it is completely blocked from sending any traffic out to the internet, period. Your data cannot leak out. And this table just sums it all up perfectly. You can see that clean, logical flow of traffic, right? From the internet, through the web tier, to the app tier, and finally to the database. Every single step is controlled and restricted. This is exactly what a defense-in-depth strategy looks like in the real world. So our fortress is built, the rules are in place. But wait, we're not done. Not even close. A fortress is only secure if you're actually watching the gates and the walls. And that brings us to the critical, and honestly, often overlooked, practice of monitoring. This is such a fundamental truth in security. You simply cannot protect what you cannot see. Having visibility into your network traffic isn't just a nice-to-have, it is an absolute necessity for spotting attacks and, frankly, for troubleshooting when things go wrong. And luckily, Azure gives you some powerful tools for this. Diagnostic logs from your NSGs and your firewall, they become your security guard's logbook. It's a detailed record of every single person allowed or denied entry.
And then you have Azure Monitor, which acts like your security analyst, collecting all that data, spotting suspicious patterns, and alerting you to potential threats.
Okay, before we wrap this up, I want to leave you with 3 golden rules. And these aren't just tips, these are foundational principles from experienced architects that will help you avoid the most common and the most dangerous security mistakes. Just 3. That's it. Remembering these will dramatically, and I mean dramatically, improve your security posture. First, the default deny mindset. This is your most important principle. Start by blocking everything. Then, and only then, carefully permit what is absolutely necessary. This is how you prevent accidental exposure. Second, practice good NSG rule hygiene. Seriously, a tangled mess of undocumented rules is just a security incident waiting to happen. Keep your rules clean, simple, and document their purpose. And third, use consistent naming and tagging. Trust me, when you're under pressure during an incident, having a clear, logical system for finding your resources is invaluable. It makes managing and troubleshooting your security infinitely easier. We've covered a lot of ground today. From laying the foundation with VNets to setting up our layered defenses and keeping a watchful eye. The blueprint is right here. So the only question left is, now that your fortress is designed, what will you secure first?